Update. I broke my wife and I don't think it is fixable. Original post. This happened 6 months ago and I'm only choosing to talk about it now because I don't see any improvement in sight. And I feel hopeless. We were at a party. My friend is single and we started talking about love and relationships. My wife and I have been happily married for 7 years. We have 3 beautiful children. She is the love of my life. When I was talking to my friend, I felt like we were on different levels of thinking. His complaints were mostly superficial about how the people he dated looked. I was a bit drunk at that point and said something like, "You don't fall in love with looks. Look at me and my wife. I love her more than anything compared to my ex, who was just looks." Everyone went silent, and my damage control was even worse. So I ended up just shutting the heck up. I couldn't get my point across. But even I started to think that maybe these thoughts had been in my head and only came out when I was drunk. My wife was shocked. The first week, she was so angry and wanted to understand what I meant, but nothing I said was good enough. I told her I was drunk, that I love her, and that I think she is the most beautiful woman. But she thought being drunk made me say my true feelings. Then one morning, she just said, "You know, I have never felt as ugly as I have felt this past week. I have always thought I was beautiful." She didn't cry this time, but she hasn't been happy since. I started crying and apologizing, but she was emotionless. That was the last time she truly looked at me. She is now taciturn and distant, but only with me. She has lost 20 pounds and works out 6 to 7 days a week. She never has free time with me. If she's not with the children or her family and friends, she's immersed in a book or has her headphones on. She's always fully clothed now, even in bed. She locks the bathroom door when she showers. She is more active in social media too. She shares many pictures of herself and she thanks everyone who gives her a compliment. Before, it was just pictures with our children and pets, but now it's her, working out in sports bras and tights. I broke her and I don't know how to fix it. Now for the top advice before reading the update. So, are you going to answer any of the comments asking about what you said as damage control? Because that's a very important detail that you left out of your post, and it definitely matters. My friend, my wife, and my wife's friend and husband were very silent, and I started saying I didn't mean that my wife wasn't good looking, I just meant that I loved her for other things. Then, even worse, I said that sometimes you are very attracted to someone and everything is a whirlwind with them, but you have nothing in common and see no future. I probably alluded to the fact that I used my brain and not my junk when looking for a relationship. I thought it was the logical way of thinking, but for her, I think she would have preferred that whirlwind and passion. I haven't read all the comments yet. This is the first one I read that asked me to explain the damage control. If you love her, you'd find a way. Plus, when you love someone, they automatically become the hottest person to you. Even if you didn't think it when you met, once you fall in love, I mean real love, that's it. Tunnel vision. It doesn't mean they're perfect or that you're obsessed 24/7 or super attracted all the time, but they become the one. Now, all that said, if you love your wife and your child and would do anything for them, you need to fix it. And why the heck is a grown and married man talking about scales of hotness with another grown man? Are y'all really this shallow and stupid? Has she been there for you? Does she take care of you, love you, make you feel wanted? Go fix your mess. When I met her and fell in love with her, she was the most attractive girl I knew, to this day. That's what I was trying to say. She is very beautiful, but that wasn't the only reason I fell for her. It was beyond looks. Looks become superficial and unimportant when you love someone. She finally agreed to couples therapy after I showed her this post. I don't want to be too hopeful, but after her suggestion that I would sleep with other women, I think even she understood that it was very hurtful to me. Now for the update. We have been going to counseling, and at first, my wife was very reluctant to open up and wanted to pretend that everything was fine. During one session, she suddenly asked me, "I want the truth, here and now. No sugarcoating, and do not try to spare my feelings. Did you find me attractive when we met?" I really didn't know what to say to this. I love her more than anything, even more than my children and myself. I think she's the most beautiful woman I know. But did I immediately think that when I met her? No, I didn't really find her attractive. We all grow up having a type. I remember thinking that she wasn't exactly my type, but she was so lovable and sweet. It didn't take me long to fall for her, and now I find women who look like her attractive. So I guess type is something very superficial and fleeting. I told her the truth. She cried and said that she didn't even know why she was so hurt and crying. She knew there were more beautiful women. She never wanted to be the most beautiful woman either. But she had always been considered beautiful by other people, which is true, and had always gotten attention. What made her sad was the fact that the one person she wanted to be found the most beautiful by didn't think that. And that was painful because she loved me way before we even started dating. This happened during our latest session, and it was the most draining experience. Later, when we got home, she apologized for making a big deal out of something so trivial. But she also said she just couldn't help it, and she was confused as to why it affected her so badly. On Saturday, she told me that she didn't want to stay in our marriage, that something inside her had broken. She asked me if I would try to hurt her and the children if we separated, if I would use them to get back at her, if I would alienate her because she chose to leave. I promised her that none of this would happen, and that I loved her and wanted her to be happy, even if it wasn't with me. Our families are in an uproar over this, mostly angry with her, saying she let her insecurities get the best and worst of her. But I don't think it's insecurity, to be honest. She has never cared about other people's attention. She just realized that the only person whose approval she cared about never really gave it to her. At least not in the way she wanted. The fact that I had to learn to see her that way wasn't enough. And there is way more to this story for sure, especially the fact that they're in counseling already. This is most likely the straw that broke the camel's back. This is an update for the husband's original post. The counseling is relatively new due to an incident where OP humiliated his wife at a party by basically saying to his friend, "Stop being so shallow about women. Look at my wife. She's no beauty queen, but I love her," in so many words. The OP's wife became detached, started hardcore working out, and glowing up. Apparently, their marriage was perfect until he had the audacity to say that, and then just made excuses for half a year. Yeah, I'd be devastated too. Dude, your pencil is not sharp at all. You really could have changed the way you said that to her. I had a type back then, but one look at you and the type has broken. You were the most amazing woman I had ever met. You were different from every other woman in the best ways possible. You could have also said, you fall in like with looks. You fall in love with the person they are. Your wife is struggling, and you keep putting your foot in your mouth. He is so painfully honest in the worst and most stupid way ever. Too honest for his own good. Don't have to lie, but can word it at least a bit better to reassure her how you really feel. Next story. I'm relieved that my wife passed away. My wife's health had been slowly and not too steadily declining for the last 2 decades. We found out at the start of last year that she had probably had MS for most of those 20 years, previously undiagnosed. By the end, she was wheelchair-bound, barely able to stand at all, and required constant assistance. And she refused to cooperate with the physical therapists and nurses who were trying to help her. She did the absolute minimum she felt she could get away with it, and she rarely, if ever, thought about the impact of her decisions or what she said on other people. For the last 5 years, more and more of my time had been taken up being a live-in caregiver for her. This was on top of working a full-time job to support us. I was exhausted. I was burnt out. I was tired of being treated as little more than a servant to meet her needs. In August of 2024, she finally got bad enough that I couldn't deal with it anymore, and we transitioned her into a long-term care facility. For a while, that seemed to be going well. But then in early November, she got a cough, and it kept getting worse. By the first week or 2 of December, it was bad. They sent her to the hospital where she was diagnosed with pneumonia and was strongly advised to be put on a ventilator. She reluctantly agreed, and she never woke up. Her condition continued to get worse and worse, despite the best efforts of the medical staff. On the 19th, she passed away. I was devastated. We were married for 25 years and I loved her. But I'm also relieved, both for myself and for her. For her, because she had been more and more miserable over the years as her capabilities faded, and she felt worse and worse. She wasn't happy. For myself, because as much as I loved her, I had lost myself. My entire existence had been dedicated to her for years. I had no hobbies to speak of. I had no ability to go out and do things away from the house. I had no energy. And now I have time again. I can do things like go on a hike in the mountains all day without worrying about whether she's fallen in the bathroom and hit her head. I can spend time working on my hobbies. I have a budget that I have full control of again and can save money without having to fight with someone who wants to spend money just because it exists. I can go to the gym and work on my own health, which had definitely suffered for the past 10 years. So yes, I am relieved that my wife passed away. And I feel guilty about that sometimes, but not that guilty. You did more than enough. More than a lot of people in that position could actually. You faithfully upheld your vows to the end. Much respect and admiration to you, sir. You have earned your spot in whatever afterlife you believe in. You have also earned your freedom in this life. Hopefully you are healthy and have years ahead of you still. Good luck. Thank you. And yeah, I luckily still have most of my health. I'm very overweight and ended up with diabetes, but I've got my diabetes under good control and I'm going out to the gym and working out with a personal trainer. I suspect if I had continued as I was much longer, I would have started to slide down a dangerous slope very quickly. But I have hopefully caught it in time and can undo most of the damage. Good news is, with diet and exercise, you can reverse diabetes. I don't even care if I need to be on insulin the rest of my life, which I may or may not need to be. I just want to be able to be physically active outdoors again. Hiking, skiing, ham radio, astronomy, photography, etc. Caregiver burnout is a real thing. I'm a nurse who has worked with many critical long-term care patients and it's not easy, and I got to go home at the end of the day. There's no need for guilt. You took the best care of her you could, and when you couldn't anymore, you put her somewhere that could. Grief is also different for people who have loved ones with long illnesses. You've probably been grieving for years whether you've realized it or not. So to outsiders, it may seem like you've moved on sooner, but the reality is that you've already been grieving. Yes, I definitely did some pre-grieving. I also lost my mother a few years ago. So I had some practice at that tier of grief. And I'm naturally pretty stoic as well, so while I was a wreck the day of the memorial, I've been mostly okay otherwise, and actually feeling pretty good most of the time. Last story. My brother introduced the family to his sugar baby / gold digger, and everyone is acting like it's normal. For background, my 34 male brother 37 male is independently very wealthy after climbing the ranks of a successful tech startup that struck big. He is also very generous with his money. For instance, he has set up funds to ensure our parents will be taken care of for their lives. He covers the bill at restaurants and he pays for the family's accommodations when we travel. The rest of our family is financially stable with careers, upper middle class, so we do not need him to do this and never assume he will cover things, but he often insists. He was in a 7-year relationship, 2 years married, with his ex-wife, 35 female, prior to getting divorced. They met in college, when they were both poor. His divorce was a dark time for him, and he was admittedly depressed, which was hard on the whole family. He was single for about 2 years after his divorce and dated casually, but never mentioned any serious relationships. About 2 years ago, our other sibling got married, and my brother, then single, flew into town for the wedding event. He was noticeably in a foul mood, very unlike himself, especially when all the siblings get together. He told me he had previously been seeing a new girl, Maggie, who had recently blocked him from all communication platforms after he made a joke that did not land well, and he was effectively going through a breakup. I offered my support, but he clearly did not want to talk about it at the time. 6 months later, he announced to the family that Maggie was now his girlfriend and that they had been dating for 2 months, and then learned she was 19 years old at the time they met, and she had been living in his apartment for the last 2 months. After meeting Maggie for the first time, I found out she was a first-year university student studying marketing. She's obsessed with luxury brands, exotic travel/vacations, and Instagram. Most importantly, she lost her apartment 2 months prior due to financial instability, right around the time she and my brother restarted dating after the initial breakup. She's very pretty, easy to talk to, and shares interesting thoughts. But one can't help but notice the stark contrast in maturity and life experience between her, my brother, and the rest of us siblings and spouses. She and my brother don't seem to have any interests in common, aside from some movies, books, and TV shows. She also mentioned that she has had prior sugar-like relationships with older men who took her and her friends on luxury yacht vacations. My brother is infatuated, bends to her every whim, can't keep his hands off her, and of course finances everything. She pouts if things are not exactly to her liking, and it caves immediately. I have not heard if she has an allowance, but she has no personal income as she is a student. She expects to dine only at the best restaurants, wants him to purchase her luxury bags and shoes, and pays for her maintenance. Hair, nails, facials, personal trainer, etc. He overall seems happy, which makes me happy. But I have a deep mistrust of her and the situation. They have now been dating for 1 year. He introduced her to the extended family, mom, dad, siblings, siblings-in-law, and kids, this Christmas, and everyone was very nice and inclusive of her. Since the holidays, when I have privately and lightly broached the topic of their age difference and financial dynamic with members of my family, my siblings and parents do not seem as suspicious or concerned as I am. They're just happy he seems happier than he was around the time of his divorce and the other family wedding when Maggie had blocked him. We are not a family who openly talks about dysfunction. I'm not sure if or how I should talk with my brother about it. I think everyone missed the part where the brother was upset about being blocked 2 years ago at the wedding when the two people in question would have been 17 and 35. I'm sorry, Opie, but that's just wrong. However, given his infatuation and likely inability to be open to a conversation about the age difference, I'd take a different approach. Talk to him from a financial standpoint. He said he set up a fund for your parents to be taken care of, so perhaps talk to him about making sure he has an irrevocable trust that pays him and only him so is taken care of too. That way, even if he never wakes up to what Maggie is doing or how inappropriate their relationship is, he could at least be secure in having an income that she can't bleed any more than the next monthly payment. She was 19 when I met her and when all this started, and this was over 1 year ago. She's now 20. He is 37. Sorry for the confusion. I don't have any issues with her. I only see red flags with him, to be honest. I don't understand how people have such a problem with women being labeled as gold diggers, yet don't express the same concerns when men, who could date age-appropriate women, choose to pursue literal teenagers or young adults, whose brains aren't even fully developed yet.